Which one's the okay.
Okay, hear me okay? All right, there we go. All right, so good morning, guys. We will go ahead and get started. We have two kind of significant changes to our documentation. One is a change to a form that we already have. The other is a brand new form that we're going to start using. And I want to go over those with you today. I want to make sure that everyone really understands why we're making these changes, because they are pretty significant changes, and then just go through kind of the nuts and bolts of how to use the forms. Really important, all of the regionals out there, that any staff members that you don't have in your office today, which I'm assuming is most of them, because you can only usually grab a couple people, make sure they watch this recorded webinar so that they're up to speed on these changes, because they will take effect as of today. One of the things we try to do at InTouch is really find ways to distinguish ourselves from the competition. There are a lot of competitors in the home care business, and we're always looking for ways that we can really set ourselves apart from everybody else, so that it becomes really a no-brainer for whether it's a resident of a community or someone living in their own home, when they're deciding between us or another company, that there's so many things that help us stand apart. And without question, the biggest thing that helps us stand apart are all of you, our staff, and that shouldn't be overlooked. That at the end of the day, really it's you guys out there is what we have to sort of hang our hat on and set our reputation on. So really my job as the director, I think, is to try and provide you with policies and tools that allow you to do your job and allow you to excel. And I'm hoping these are some of those new tools. Everybody say hi to Ron. Hi, Ron. Bye, Ron. Ron and I are sharing an office today at Hawthorne. So one of the things we've done, and let me just back up for a second. I keep sort of referring to a comment that Elizabeth, our regional coordinator up in LA, made to me a couple weeks ago, that really her goal is to be the Cadillac. And while I don't own a Cadillac, I've always heard they're fantastic cars, and we all know, sort of the analogy is to be the best. And again, I think these things, these little changes that we make from time to time, are all in search of ways to be the best. So what we're looking at right now, I'm hoping you guys can all see my screen, and I'll zoom in a little bit. We have made a pretty big change to our visit record that we're going to start using effective today. And this is news to the regionals, some of the regionals as well, so you may not see these in circulation quite yet, but we can start using them today. Right now, the visit record, I'm sure you're all familiar with it. It's basically just a lined piece of paper, essentially, where you put your name and the date, and you kind of write some notes about what you did. We've decided, for a few reasons, to go to more of a checklist format, so that instead of just a blank piece of paper that you have to write a lot of notes on, we think the checklist format will do a couple of things. Number one, I think it'll be easier to use. I think it'll be a little bit faster. We actually got this feedback when we had a state inspection up there in Oregon a couple months ago now. They actually gave us some feedback that they thought this would be a better format. What we also want it to do is to try and be a way to remind all of us to always look for ways to go above and beyond just the basic things that our clients are asking us to do. The little things we can do to be just that much better of an experience for our clients. So, one of the examples Justine often gives me is that we might have a PCA who's with a client and was asked to maybe escort them back from the dining room. But when they get back to the apartment, they have time to kill because, we often have hour minimums and things like that. So we have maybe some extra time in the person's home or their apartment. And she would hear from her staff would say, well, what do I do? And she would say, well, empty the trash or clean up the kitchen or maybe throw in a load of laundry. The little things we can do that maybe wasn't part of why you were assigned there in the first place, but by doing them, it's a better experience for the client. They really leave thinking, wow, these guys have, they went above what I expected. And so what we've tried to do is to create really a checklist that will be a visual, physical reminder to you every time you're with a client to do the things you were sent there for, but also do the things that go above and beyond. So let me sort of walk you through this tool that you'll start to see in your clients' binders beginning today. So at the top is just the client's name, obviously. And then the way we've set it up, and can you guys see my screen okay? Can I just confirm? All right. Sometimes there's a delay on what you guys can see. So we've set up columns that give you enough spaces for 8 different days you could put on one piece of paper. And the idea is you would go down this column and you would initial next to everything that you have done. So at the top, you would start with the date. So if this was today, it'd be 11/20/2015. You would put the time in. So again, that would be whatever time you arrived. Let's say it was 9:30 a.m. whatever. The time that you left. So if that was a 1 hour, let's say it was now 10:30 a.m. Then you go down this list, and it's in the same order as our service plan. And as you know, it's your responsibility to review the service plan of every client that you work with. So I'm hoping you're familiar with our service plan format, but it follows that same sequence as the service plan. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to do all of these things every time you visit a client. For example, pet assistance. If your client doesn't have a pet, you're not going to do any pet assistance. Housekeeping, we don't always do housekeeping. Bathing, we don't always do bathing. So you're only going to initial, and that's what we want you to do, not check marks, we want your initials. You're going to initial next to everything that you do. Now looking at this sheet, it's a blank piece of paper. You still need to look at the service plan and your daily caregiver assignment. You still need to look at those to know what you're supposed to do. This is just a tool to document what you've done. So if for this particular client I had put in a load of laundry, I would put my initials. If I had done some little light housekeeping, I'd put my initials. And you would just go down the form, all the way down the column for every time you visit the client. So if maybe I help them get dressed, put my initials. I help them use the toilet, put my initials, and you just continue on down the form. Anywhere that you don't do something, you should put a line through the box, okay? So we don't ever want to see blank spaces on the form because theoretically someone could go back and modify it. So if you don't do something, you would put a line through that part of the form. And I don't, working here in Word, it's not real easy for me to put a line, but we'll do an imaginary one there. So it would look something like that. You'd have a line through anything that you didn't do. And again, didn't do isn't necessarily bad. It may be that that wasn't part of your assignment for that client. So it goes through chores, errands, it goes through personal care, and then the bottom part of this, the genuine hospitality, these are those things that are, again, kind of above and beyond. Well, first of all, did you check in and out via ADLware? You know that's really important to us for a variety of reasons. If you don't check in and out on ADLware, there's a lot of problems that happen. Number one, we don't necessarily bill the client correctly. And that's obviously important for us to be successful as a business. We need to bill for our services. Number two, your supervisor gets an alert that says, hey, Josh didn't show up to Mrs. Smith's room. If I would clock in, they would know I was there. Thirdly, some families use our family portal where they can actually log in and they can see when you visit their loved one. So if you don't check in and out on ADLware, it's going to look to them like you didn't show up. When I was in nursing school, we learned a very important phrase that if it wasn't documented, it wasn't done. And so that's our same thinking with ADLware. So I want to make sure I do that. So I would initial here that yes, I checked in and out on ADLware. Did you knock before entering? You know, our policy is we treat our client's home as their home. We don't just simply barge in, we knock and we receive permission to enter. So this is just a reminder, and I'm confirming, yes, I did that. Then these next few things, again, these are those above and beyond that you may not do on every visit. It's going to depend on how much time you had and what you were doing. For example, if you were doing a transportation, you probably wouldn't have an opportunity to do very many things in their apartment. On the other hand, many times you do have a few extra minutes. So these are things we would always encourage you to do. Offer to empty their trash. Offer if you see dishes in the sink or on the counter, offer to load the dishwasher. Offer to make their bed or clean up the kitchen. If they have pets, offer to give the pet some food or water. And if they have plants, same thing. You can offer to water their plants. These seem like, you know, maybe trivial, simple things, but again, this is the sort of customer service that, you know, I hired InTouch to get mom back and forth to the dining room, but wow, while they were there, they also threw in some laundry and they cleaned up her kitchen. You know, that was really, you know, really an extra special touch that we weren't expecting. And that's the sort of thing that's going to keep those clients coming back to us and telling their friends, you know, just how much they appreciated InTouch. So this form will, every time you go in their apartment or in their home, you're going to fill out this form. It will give you, we hope, sort of a reminder. Hey, don't forget to do these extra things. And again, you would simply initial the ones that you did. And again, depending on the situation, if you walked in and their kitchen was spotless and they had no dirty laundry, well, then there's no need to offer those things. But the things that you did offer, again, you're going to put your initials next to them. Does that make sense so far? Oh, Linda, I've got you muted. Let me, sounds like you're asking a question. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Okay, so what if we do a lot of escorts to and from the dining room? You just have dining. Does that include escorts?
There is escort. Let me double check.
I didn't see it.
You know what? That's a good point, Linda. I'll need to add it. I thought we had it.
And then also on our visit records, we also leave notes for the next, like laundry in the washing machine. Is there any spot where we can leave notes for the next PCA?
The back side of the paper of the form is just going to be lines. So if you need to leave a note, you can turn it over, put the date, your note, and then your name.
Okay. And any additional services that we did that are not on the checklist, you want on the back side?
I'd prefer we capture them on the checklist. So if you find that there's frequently things that aren't on the checklist, we should try to add it. But with that said, you know, there's always going to be those random things that, you know, don't necessarily belong on a checklist. So yeah, anything you would need to put, you could put on those notes.
Okay. Okay, so a big one that we do is medication reminder. I mean, I'm sorry, escorting to and from activities or the dining room.
Yeah, I'll add escort. I thought we had it here. I don't know if it got dropped somewhere when we made a revision, but I'll put escort on here.
Okay, thank you.
So one last thing, just real quick on the form. So since you're putting your initials every time, we need to know what the full name of the person is that put those initials. So at the bottom, you can see there's a place to put your name, your full signature, and then your initials. You only need to do that one time per form. So let's say, for example, you visit this client 4 times in a day. You're going to fill out 4 columns because you're filling out a column every time you visit the client. but you only need to put your name and signature at the bottom once. And the purpose of that is just so that, you know, if 3 years from now we're having to look at one of these forms, we're not going to remember who JA is. And so by putting my full name down here, and then putting my signature, and then my initials again, you know, we could look later and see, oh, anywhere it says JA, that was Josh Allen. So again, you only need to do that part once on each form, but every time you visit a client, you should fill out a separate column, because again, remember at the top we had date and then time in and time out. And again, there's enough space. We tried to fit as much as we could. There's enough space for 8 visits per page, which is, I believe, the same or close to the same number of spaces we had on the old visit record. Any other questions on that? Okay, I'm going to take a second so I don't forget. And I'm going to add escort to this form. Okay, the next form we're going to go over is actually brand new, something we've never used before. This is a form called, oh, I'm sorry, question?
Josh, we have a couple questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Another thing that we also do is deliver meals. So would that be under just dining?
Yeah, that would be dining, because keep in mind what it should say on your service plan if you're delivering meals is you would have dining marked, and the plan would say deliver, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner. The form is not meant to replace that. You still need to look at the service plan to know the full scope of what you did. This is just a way to sort of sign off on it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. In fact, to maybe make that a little easier, we could put dining/meals. Any other questions? Okay. So again, this next form it's brand new for us, although it's something that's used quite a lot in the senior living and care industry. We see folks in assisted living, we see folks in skilled nursing and in home health using this tool. It's called the Stop and Watch. It's not actually something we invented. It was developed by a group called the Interact. The basic idea behind this tool is to help us as care providers be the eyes and ears of the family, of the doctor, of anyone who is caring for that individual. The reality is, you know, many of your clients you spend a lot of time with, and there's a good chance that if your client's changing, you know, their health condition is changing, maybe their ability to take care of themselves, maybe their memory, you know, you're starting to see changes in that person, there's a very good chance that you're going to be one of the first people to notice that, because you're with them every day. And you might be the first one to notice, geez, you know, Mary used to be, you know, pretty independent and would come down to the dining room on her own, but now, you know, she seems more confused, like she can't find the dining room, or she doesn't remember what time to go to meals, you know, whatever that might be. It's not our job, obviously, we don't do assessments per se. You know, we're not a medical provider. We're a non-medical home care provider. But nevertheless, we want to be sure that if we're seeing changes in one of our clients, we want to let someone know, because there's a good chance that what you're seeing could be the beginning of bigger problems. And the sooner we tell someone about it, you know, hopefully the more likely they are to receive the necessary care or medical attention that they need. Now, this is not, of course, replacing 911. I mean, if something is a serious change, a serious emergency, you're going to pick up the phone, you're going to call 911, and you're going to get help immediately. This is meant to be more for those things that are just, again, subtle changes, differences, not something so severe that you think you need to call 911, but yet you feel like someone should know that there's been a change. And so what this tool does is it gives us an acronym in the words stop and watch. So literally what it wants you to do is, hey, you see something different, stop, take a look at what it is, and then report it. So if you look, and again, I don't know how well you guys can read this. I'll zoom in some more here. On the tool, for each letter in the word stop and watch, there's sort of something you can look for. So for example, the S, they seem different than usual. Now that may seem vague, but often it's the first clue. You can't quite put your finger on it. Again, we're not medical providers per se. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you just know that something is different about that person. And so you'd let us know. Something seems different. T, they talk or communicate less than normal. That can be the first sign of a variety of problems. In severe cases, it could be a sign that the person's had a stroke because they're having difficulty communicating, difficulty speaking. Overall, they need more help than usual. So if this was someone who used to be able to bathe themselves and dress themselves and feed themselves, and now all of a sudden they need us to do more for them, we want to let someone know. It could be that they're having weakness related to some other underlying medical problem. Could be a variety of things. P, they participated in activities less than usual. So are they becoming more isolated? Are they staying in their apartment? Are they not wanting to go out and do things? That could be the early sign, perhaps, of depression. A, they ate less than usual. Changes in eating are one of the first warning signs of a variety of medical problems. And so again, it's not your job to diagnose that they have a medical problem, but if you see that they're eating less, it's good to let someone know about that. Along those same lines, D, they drank or they're drinking less than usual. Under watch, you see things like weight change. Now, we don't routinely weigh all of our clients, but if you do have a client who receives assistance with weight, you would want to let someone know if there's been a change. Are they more agitated than normal? Are they more tired or confused or drowsy? Has there been a change in their skin? That's definitely something we want to let people know about, redness or irritation in their skin. And then lastly, do they need any additional help with walking, transferring, or toileting? Again, these are a variety of warning signs that you might identify. And the idea is that this tool, the Stop and Watch tool, gives you a way to let someone know about it. There have been studies that have shown when organizations, when senior living providers use this tool, they've been able to reduce hospitalization of their clients by as much as 30% because we tell someone about these problems before they get worse. So here's what we want you to do with this as a PCA. Be aware that these are available. Your regional care coordinator will make sure that you have access to plenty of copies of this form. If you see any of these things in your client, it's really easy. You put the client's name at the top of the form. You circle whichever one of these things you've seen. You don't need to make some long explanation. Keep it simple. Just circle which one you've seen on this list. The bottom here, you put your name. You put who you reported it to, and that should be your regional care coordinator unless there's a reason, perhaps they're out and you had to report it to a lead or had to report it to maybe your regional director. But generally speaking, these reports should go to your regional care coordinator. And then you put the date and time. Really, really simple. From there, your regional care coordinator will communicate with the responsible party for that client. So usually that's a family member, perhaps it's a power of attorney or a conservator or a guardian. Whatever the situation is, usually it's the family. They're going to let them know, hey, we just wanted to make you aware our staff have identified this change in your loved one. We highly recommend that you seek some medical consultation for that. It's not our job as a home care provider to make a doctor's appointment or rush them to the doctor. It's our job to let someone know that we've seen the change. So RCCs, there's a spot for you at the bottom of the form to make your notes. And the key thing you want to include in your notes is the date, time, and person that you notified. So whether that's the son, the daughter, the conservator, whomever you told about that. If your client is living in an assisted living community, it might be that you notified the nurse of that assisted living community. Whatever made sense, but you want to notify a responsible party and document that notification under RCC notes. We really, again, this is an example of something that we're not required to do this form. We're not required to have this tool, but again, trying to go above and beyond, trying to provide that extra level of service to our clients and really having the potential to make a difference in the health and well-being of our client. So you guys will be the eyes and ears out there. If you see those changes, you're going to fill out this tool, get it to your regional coordinator, and then they'll take the ball from there. Questions?
Nice conference call for Michael Gross.
All right, guys. We will have these forms available on the S Drive, and as always, if you have any questions, you guys know where to reach me. Have a good rest of your day and a good weekend.